here we are. It's COVID-19. It is a time that neither one of us have ever lived through. And this podcast, if you ever listen to it or subscribe to it, it's all about sports and humanity. And there's a great intersection there. And you as a human, you've got this brilliant human story to you, let alone your professional accolades, which we'll get to. But I'm curious now, as a human, as a father, how are you dealing with the times right now amid, a profession where you're a quarterback training, prepping Jalen Hurts for the draft, and you got a lot of things that you're probably balancing in a healthy world, and now we're in a pandemic, and I'm just curious how you're doing.
It's difficult. I'm sure it's difficult for a lot of folks out there, and I mean, I can't complain. The situation that I'm in is a lot better than a lot of other people's situations. So, just trying to look at the bright side. Like I get to spend more time with my family. I'm always on the road, so now I get to hang out with my daughter, like just spend a bunch of quality time with her, and she comes running in here. I'm sorry about that.
It's all
Um, and then just trying to plan out the year. Like, okay, so what can I do in this time to help other people out? That's kind of what I've been on more. So I spend a little bit of time every week just trying to do like free lessons for guys, helping them understand defenses a little bit better, helping them understand the game a little bit better, trying to get some other folks like some confidence that things are going to get back to normal, and when they do, I will be able to have used this for the betterment of myself.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, it's been fun here as a dad with a family too. Like you're playing preschool teacher, your mind goes and you're like, okay, I could knock out all these things, but hours get eaten up in the day. And what I found is like just connecting or reconnecting. Like I've interviewed on this podcast like former teammates. I'm trying to call one former teammate a week just to
hmm
catch up with them. I've talked to you, I feel like for a year about having you on, like finally, we get the force function to hit pause and do it. So for me, like there's been I'm a worker, I'm a grinder to a degree. Like I enjoy productivity, but there's been a great, like, it's almost like a pregnant pause per se, or like productivity adjacent, where it's like, it's a different type of productivity. It's a more human type of productivity that's been fun, to be honest with you. Like it's been enjoyable, different, but connecting has been the best part of this thing for me.
100%. And it kind of makes you think like, am I not doing enough of that during the other parts of my life? Where do I need to spend more time like taking a step back and then connecting? Because it shouldn't take something like a pandemic for us to realize that
Yep.
we got to really like unplug from the world and like plug into the people we care about and the people we love and we want to communicate with.
Yeah. All right. So on that note, like I think there's a couple buckets that we could talk for hours, but just for consideration of your time and for the listeners' ears when they're listening to this or watching it on YouTube. And I've been putting these on YouTube now for people listening. Check it out on my YouTube channel. But for you, did you have this moment where you're like, I'm going to go try to be one of the top quarterback trainers in the country? Because usually I'm
Yeah.
on the game. For those that don't know, like your dad coached for a long time in the
hmm
professional ranks. I'm sure you grew up in the game. Like, were you one of those kids that were like, I'm going to do something in football? Or were you like, no, I don't want to be what my dad is? Because I feel like for football kids, it goes one way or the
It's
other.
like one way or the other for sure. So my idea was like, I'm going to be a football coach. A little bit different because my mom and dad were separated. So I didn't see to the same levels as a lot of other people how much their dad was gone during the season. I would spend the beginning of camp with them and I'd be there every day. Right. So that's the part I saw. I'm like, this is cool. I love that. I just thought that I didn't spend as much time with my dad because he was separated from my mom. But then I got into coaching, and the hours are crazy, especially as a young, up and coming coach. And as I was doing it more and more, I'm like, these guys don't seem like they spend a ton of like. There's no family. Like a lot of those coaches that we see and we watch on Saturdays and Sundays don't spend a ton of time with their families. And I'm sure their families like appreciate the work they do, but that's not the life that I wanted to live. So I was in the office and I was breaking down quarterback tape. Like this is before we had like these big recruiting rooms. This was like the quality control type guys would look at all the tape.
And you're
And I
UCLA
just
doing this.
and I'm at UCLA, yeah, sorry, I'm at UCLA. And I saw the same things over and over come up. Like, man, I think I could help guys out with this, right? So I'm seeing that, and I'm seeing it, and then I'm getting on YouTube, and I'm seeing George Whitfield. I'm like, who? I don't know this guy. Like, I don't know what his credentials are, but I think I could do this, right? And I'm looking over and over, and I just keep seeing George's name. He's popping up. I'm like, I want to be like that. Like, that's the dude. Like, I want to get to that level. And then I start Googling like quarterback trainers in the cities that I've lived in. I didn't see any in Atlanta, and I'm like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go start training quarterbacks, and I
Wow.
kind of started at that point.
Wow, that's amazing. So let's back up a little bit for your
Mm-hmm.
relationship with the game, because I remember being a kid and watching football, and you just watched it. I think when you're a jock as a youngster, like your brain is just ingrained like to Sports Center, or like I still read the newspaper and can memorize like box scores and still see names and coaches. I feel, and we don't have to talk about it if you want to, but like there's a catalytic moment in your life around your dad and coaching. I don't want to screw the story up, but my
No,
understanding,
I'll tell. Yeah,
yeah,
you
but
want me
well,
to do
give me
it?
your version of it, because I have mine that clearly doesn't have the depth that you have.
Well, okay. So, my dad was a coach. He was coaching for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they had a game against the Atlanta Falcons. It was a Sunday afternoon game, 1 o'clock Eastern game. And then I'm just sitting at home. Seemed like a normal Sunday. Watched a bunch of football. I watched the Falcons and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play because my dad was coaching that team. And then Sunday night football game happens. After the Sunday night football game, the first thing that I see on ESPN is Wendell Avery, who's my father, uh, coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is gone missing. So, that like, if you can kind of think about the emotions that you would have at that point, you're scared. You don't know where your dad is. Is your dad okay? Um, Everybody at school is going to know that my dad was missing because he's from Minnesota. So not only is it on ESPN, but all the local channels play the same thing nonstop for the next 2 hours. And I know I have to go to school the next morning. And it was a very difficult time for me at that point. And that probably changed like the dynamic of my life and the way that I deal with people, and how guarded I am, and my ability to communicate is really was tremendously impacted that day. Um, go to school the next morning. It's all anybody wanted to talk about. And then I come to find out about 2 days later, my dad had a drug abuse problem. He missed a game because he like went on a binge, and he was gone until Thursday. We found out about Wednesday that he was okay. The team had got news that, or had a private investigator find out that he was okay and he was safe. Comes back Thursday, goes back to the team, and then I guess the way I am, or after that moment, I didn't talk to my dad from that point until probably a year and a half later. Until my end of sophomore year, started getting back close with my father, and then he was like, "All right," he's running a football camp. He's like, "Just come with me." You know what I'm saying? We'll take you on these a number of different schools, whatever, and we'll go do our thing. So I'm like, "All right, I guess I'll do it." Go to the first camp. My dad's coaching me. I'm playing the best football I've ever played. Like, and this was a thread between my dad and me, was football. Right? This is the one thing that we really had in common. We go to camp. I'm doing great. He's like, "All right, camp's over. We got to go to our next stop." So we go to a hotel after camp. We get to the hotel. My dad's like, "All right, I'm gonna run to the store. I'll be right back. You need anything?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." He's like, "All right, I'll see you in a second." Wake up the next morning. My dad's not there. He left me in the hotel for 3 days, by myself. I'm like 16. That was a difficult moment for me because the thing that brought me so close to my dad at the same time kind of pulled us apart. But it drew me closer to football and at the same time further away from my dad. So that's kind of how football has been really impactful at a young age for me.
Yeah, I feel like the game has this like, it's this weird relationship, right? I think for people like you or myself, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but for me, it was the first thing I fell in love with. And up until my wife, the only thing I had ever
Mm-hmm.
really loved with depth, with real, like hands and teeth and soul in it. Uh, and you go into it knowing the game will break your heart. And what you learn is that the game can be a catalyst to other moments in your life. Football led me to meeting my wife literally 3 years ago. I got on a plane because I was at Stanford and I extended my trip a day, and I met her the next day. For you, it's brought you a ton of joy, obviously, but also, relative heartbreak to a certain degree with your dad. How did you come to grips with the game? How did you not look at the game and see, I got left in a hotel room for a couple of days? Like, how have you been able to, and maybe it's a work in progress, to have a copacetic, loving relationship with a game that has done good and not so good to you?
Much in the same way as you, like, it was really the only thing that I ever loved. So it's the only thing that I could fall back on, right? There's other things I could do, but it's the only thing that I really wanted to spend time with, wanted to work at, wanted to be. It was literally the only thing I wanted to be the best at. And I know that sounds crazy, like having kids kind of changed that perspective, but I didn't care about school. Like, there were so many things I did not care about. It was just football, and I just did everything else so I could be better at football or so I could play football. And it's not something I advise to other people, but it's just who I was.
Right.
So as soon as I got the opportunity to, like, get back into something and lose everything else that was going on in my life, I would.
Wow. So how's your dad, if you don't mind me asking now?
My dad was coaching in the CFL this past year for the Toronto Argonauts. Their staff just got let go, so he's back in the States, but he's doing well. He's into some real estate. He was just here in Atlanta with me for a couple of weeks, and now he's in Corpus. I'm sure he's gonna be doing something football related.
Yeah, I bet it's amazing for him to watch him with your little one, and you be a
It
dad.
is. It is. It's so crazy just how different we kind of are as parents. He came from like a time where dads weren't as hands-on in all the little things. They would like work and provide, and they kind of felt like that was their role. And I'm just different. Like, I want to do everything.
Yeah,
So
no,
it's cool for him to see that. And I explained that to him while he was here. Like, being a dad to me is more than just providing. It's like emotionally being present and doing all the things that we get the opportunity to do.
yeah, no, you're a great pops. Okay, so that being said, there's your entrance to the game, right? As a young professional, this quarterback thing, we both love George. He was a pioneer,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll go down in history as a pioneer, as a quarterback trainer, transitioning to being on game day,
Mm-hmm.
in and out for the last 6 years or so, different roles, different stints. I mean, dude didn't win a game in the NFL. As a quarterback, neither did you, neither did I. Neither did a lot of the people that are in the QB, Elite 11, their own business space. But there's a space there for it. How do you look at it? Like, if you were to explain what, like, the private QB, we have a lot of labels for it, but we just said private QB coach, to be very general. Like, how do you view that industry now? Because it's no longer like a hobby that's on Sunday afternoons for 3 hours.
Mm-hmm. It's to me, it's a mess. I say that there's some really, really good people in the space. Some people who spend time like trying to understand the game, trying to understand how to throw better, how to be a better quarterback. And there's some guys who just go out there and they feel like it's an opportunity for them to just train kids or do their thing. And I think that's a disservice to a lot of people because we're like playing with people's dreams. Like, this is the thing that like, there's other people out there like you and I who the only thing they care about is football. Right? And if we're out there just half-tailing it or just doing an okay job or not doing everything we can to get better, we're doing them a real disservice, and we're not being fair to them and the things that they want to do. So that's why I call it a message. Of course, there's great people at it, but there's a lot of people out there who I don't think that they put everything they can into doing this deal. If it's your job and your career, you should care about it. The same way that other people take their careers.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So how do you then, so you get into the QB space, and everybody has their first story where, like, you train like a 10-year-old,
Right.
who was the first client that, like, literally gave you a shekel to be like, hey, coach my child? And how old was he? And what was that experience like?
You want me to go through the whole deal with that one?
Well, I mean,
I'll give you the quick version.
okay. Appreciate it.
When I moved from LA to Atlanta, I just messaged kids all day nonstop on Facebook. So I messaged probably 6,000 kids. No one responded because I was offering to train them for free. No one responded. I decided, all right, I'm going to do an elite camp, but I couldn't afford to rent any spot. So It's like 5:30 in the morning at this field is what I got. They let me do it for free. No one could come to that, but the one kid who reached back out to me like, I can't make the camp. I want to train with you, Josh Dobbs. So Josh
Wow.
Dobbs is the first guy that I ever trained. Josh Dobbs went on to make the Elite 11. And from that opportunity is kind of how I got ingrained in the Elite 11 and going from there.
I love that. And I love the Elite 11 story.
Uh-huh.
We have a camp at Columbus, Ohio, and it's kind of like where Elite 11 hits probably an apex, right? I mean, it's huge. We're streaming live. We probably had a couple 100,000 people watching it. Every coach is watching because the NCAA doesn't allow coaches to come to these in person, which is another podcast. But point being, it's like Norv Turner's there. I remember his son was there. They come on our set. I'm hosting this thing on whatever platform, right, at the time.
Right.
And you sleep in your car
Mm-hmm.
the night before the first camp. Like, how badly did you want to be a part of the fraternity of the Elite 11? Because I agree with you. QB training is a mess. And then there's like the Elite 11, which at least like in our own world is consistent for 23, 24 years of training the best and giving them some tools.
Yeah, man. I mean, up until that point, I'd been homeless for 2 years, like living out of my car, showering in LA Fitness locker rooms.
Wow.
To train quarterbacks. Like I was gonna train quarterbacks. I was gonna figure out a way. And then when Trent called, I'm like, there's nothing I won't do. Like, so I drove up there, didn't have any money. You guys all went to dinner that night. And I'm like, nah, I'm not going because I didn't have enough money to like, if you guys were like, you need to pay for your own food, I couldn't have done it. But it was like, I'm gonna figure it out. Like to me, if you say you want to do something, your actions and those words need to be congruent every single time. I said that I wanted to do this, like whatever it took to do that, I was gonna do. If like I had to catch a Greyhound up there, I would have done that because you don't have any options. And I think this is something I've heard recently. Like you don't have a choice if you say you want to do something. Choices are kind of a figment of our imagination if you really want to be great or do the things that you say. So it was, I'm going up there. I'll sleep in the car. I'll just sleep on the street. Whatever I had to do to coach that deal and get opportunity.
I remember Coach Carroll, he'd always say, like, you're either competing or you're not. Like, there's no options, right? And I say that to our little guy, Zane, all the time, because you're either a good person or you're not. Like, you can't pick and choose who to be nice to, or you can't pick. Great competitors don't pick and choose when to compete. That's why you always hear the same stories about the same great competitors of, like, they'll cut your throat at ping pong or in their sport of choice.
Right.
So with that said, I want to ask you, I was reading about you earlier, and you say something, and I'll paraphrase, to train with Quincy Avery, you have to be tough. How do you define tough?
The ability to deal with adverse situations and overcome. You don't have to be successful in dealing with that. Like you can just keep working for it and be bad. But as long as you're trying, you're giving it maximum effort, and you're making a real effort to overcome the adversity that I throw in your way or the adversity that hits in your life, then you're tough in my eyes. Like that's what makes you tough. You're not going to win every time, and you're not going to defeat the drill or defeat whatever's in your way. But did you keep working? Did you persevere? Did you keep going when other people probably would have quit or when they would have folded? Like that, those are people who I want to work with.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think there's something to that of welcoming, the adversity. And when it comes, it's like our friend Dr. Michael Gervais always says, like, you feel switched on, versus my back's against the wall. Oh man, this is going to be hard. It's more like, let's go. And I've always felt one of the greatest phrases in sports, and probably the most used phrase, if you went up and down a locker room, up and down a sideline, a pitch, a diamond, would be let's go. Because you always hear it on a third down. Let's go. We get the ball back, turnover, sudden change. Let's go. Let's go. You're playing poorly. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Like there is that common phrase. And that to me is like when you're switched on. And I love that about it, because I look at guys that you train at the elite level, Deshaun Watson, right? You mentioned Josh Dobbs. You're training currently Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields. I mean, there is a who's who among the quarterbacks from the country that you're training. So within those guys, do each of them define toughness in their own light, or is there a red thread that you think goes through some of the special guys that you've been around?
the common thread between all the special guys that I've worked with, I see it more and more now because I look for it. They've all been through something in their personal life, something that was really difficult, like they had to make it through. If you don't usually go through something like that, it's hard for you to draw back on anything like as something that you can be conscious about. Like, yo, I know that I can do this because I've been through that.
Yeah.
Right? That's the thing for me. And it's not like, this one time like I sprained my finger and I had to go play in a game. That's not real adversity, right? There's got to be something that you went through, that you can draw back on. Like, I can do this. Like, there's nothing I can't handle. I mean, guys like Deshaun, like the things he went through with his mother and her having cancer and him having to be like the man of the house at 14, driving his little brother and sister to school. Like, come on, that's real stuff. Joshua Dobbs, like the thing that his mother went through and like losing her ability to walk, like that's tough. And then you got to step up. There's so many things that these guys and that people go through all the time, that I'm really, really conscious of now. I wouldn't even draft a quarterback if they hadn't been through something.
Yeah, that's well said. So how does that work for you in terms of, it's not necessarily you're not drafting quarterbacks, but you're competing to, I don't want to say recruit quarterbacks, but like, did they come to you because they're like, hey, I'm Jalen Hurts, I've been through a boatload of adversity, I'm going to the adversity guy, which maybe is a poor label for you. But like, you look at guys, you look at you, Jordan Palmer, like other guys that you see, I mean, in a traditional year around the NFL Combine, around pro days, you know, there's a group of 5 or so places to go train.
Right.
Take us inside. Like, how does that work for you? Like, what's your ideology of how you operate in that space?
I think everybody kind of has their vibe. If you like really look at it, it's a certain type of guy who goes with everybody. But at things like Elite 11 and other opportunities, when we're around the guys, I kind of try and get a vibe of if I would want to be close to them every day for 60 days. Because you spend a lot of time with this person. Like, you really get to know them, you get to see who they are, and you're spending time with them and then trying to help them mature, not only as a football person, but in a man in a really short period of time. Because they're going to have a lot of stuff thrown at them very, very quickly. So it's like I get the vibe there. Do I want to train with them? Yes or no? Okay, yes. Then I'll try and get them to come out for a weekend in Atlanta and work with me and then spend a lot of time with them there. And then I'll put together a packet like, hey, this is what I have planned. I would love to work with you. And then you kind of go from there. So I've been able to be pretty successful in terms of every guy that I've wanted to work with lately, I have. So I hope I can keep that thing running.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're not going to stop. I mean, the quarterback space is only growing. But I'm curious, like, I work in college football, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
I meet the guys in high school when you meet them at the same time at the Elite 11. And then our relationship is pretty much the transition into college, during college, then more of like mentor as they kick out to the league or eventually retire, because I'm just getting older now. And now guys are like older and have more kids than we do. But with that being said, I see recruiting a lot. And I'll talk to a lot of these guys as they're getting recruited and making their decisions at 18, 19 years old. What's the recruiting like for you? Like, would you call it like uglier or not even near what it is, or more mature? Like, is there a definition you would give like to the recruiting of quarterback training pre-draft?
Definitely more mature because it's not as much about like the facility and a lot of other silly gear, like all the stuff you see that recruiting guys out of high school to college is about. It's more about like what exactly you're providing that's going to help me be successful, right? And then how can you prove that you're going to provide that and show me to be successful? So if it's not from like a coach or a GM or a scout, like you need all those people to have your back and provide you with the reference. Hey, I worked with Quincy. I did this, and this, and this is how he helped me become successful. Or the scouts who can talk about the pro days I've run and how I try and create those to help each guy be specific or successful in their own way. So that's kind of how I lay the things that I'm going to do. I don't even talk about like where they're going to be doing all the other things at, because it doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't matter. And if you care about that, like, oh, how nice is this or how nice is that, then once again, you're a guy that I don't want to be around.
Right. So we've seen guys in the past that have done what you've done. Not exactly, but I'm talking like Kevin O'Connell, Gerard Johnson, right? 2 guys that were at the Elite 11. Kevin O'Connell's now the offensive coordinator at the LA Rams. Gerard Johnson, I believe he's still with the Colts. Charlie Fry, offensive coordinator, I believe, at Central Michigan. You know, to the point of the NFL, right? You grew up being around the professional ranks with your father, as you referenced earlier. Quarterbacks are coming from you, and exactly what you described, talking to head coaches, GMs. This is what I learned. This, da, 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 da. Is there a world where like you want to get plucked, and now come, hey, be the quarterback coach for the Atlanta Falcons or wherever it is, or do you see your space as one where you can still reach the 10-year-old and then have your 60 days with the 22, 23-year-old?
That's been probably the hardest thing for me at this point. I got a call from somebody in the NFL about, hey, we're looking for more minorities who have the opportunity to be a head coach down the line. And I'm like, all right, I would love to talk to you guys, but at the same time, I don't know if I want to, because I'm in such a unique space. Like the things that I'm getting ready to do, I don't think anybody has ever done. And I think that I've reached I'm like at like a tipping point now. Like other people think that I'm like really successful, but I just think that I'm just getting started. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to get out of this. And I'm helping out a couple of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. It's like there's so many good things going, and I want to see where that goes, because I love the fact that I'm like a business owner and I get to be creative. And I honestly think I'm the most creative person in the quarterback training space. And what I mean by that is not just like the drills and things, but like my ideas in terms of how to help people, how to be unique, and then how to bring things that other people aren't thinking about to the table. And so those are the things that I really like to do. I'm not sure that I want to go to an office every day and just talk about football. I love the business.
Well, you've had such like just tracking you and getting to know you, you do have this creative brain, you know, whether it's the style of your camps or watching you on certain specials with Deshaun Watson on ESPN, right, around whether it's the black quarterback or travel around the globe. I feel as though you're able to take ideas and not make them a reality, but make them crystallized and make them clear, make them simple, but yet have depth. And those are all the great ones I've been around. That's David Shaw, right? That's Pete Carroll. The greatest coaches I've seen have new school communication with old school values and a boatload of depth around every single decision they make. I'm curious if you could take us through it, if you're aware of it, like your creative process of idea sparks, and then how do you decide whether to make that get the green light among your community?
Yeah, because I have like thousands of ideas that I'm running through all the time. So it's just, I'm weird like that. And I guess I should say unique, but like I'll just whiteboard it. All right, these are the things that I think that I could do. Right, okay. So I get those down on paper just so I can get it out of the way so it's not in my head, because it's really hard, because I won't be able to do anything else if I have ideas in my head. Yeah. So like every night or in the morning, usually it's in the night, I'll get it done. But if something pops in my head and I'm like sleep, I'll get up and go to the room and still write it down, just so I can't, because I'll be a mess. So after I get that done, I'll like look it over the next day. Okay, this is what this would look like at the end, right? So I just try and think about like, what does it look like at the end? And then what can I do with the amount of bandwidth that I have? Like, because I don't have a ton of people working for me. There's a few. What can I actually put together and get it done, executed in the next 9 months? Yeah. Boom. I can do this. Like that Black Quarterback Club, just had an idea. I knew what I wanted to look like. And I'm like, I can find people to help me do this. So it's not just me. Boom. And then we're just going to go from there. And then it's like, just break it down in small chunks. What do I need to do first? And not necessarily just me, but the small chunks. I don't need everybody to know about the final vision. Just this is what you need to do right now. I like to do things in a digestible way so everybody can understand, because a lot of people aren't like vision guys. They can do just what's in front of them, the task right here. So I just break it down by week and then go from there. But that's kind of how the big things get done.
So what you just described, I don't know if you've been around design thinking, but I spent about a year just integrated in that thought. And design thinking is what's basically taught at design school. So you go to LA Design School, you go to SCAD in Savannah, the design school. Two of my mentors, you know, one of them, Kevin Carroll, who wrote the book, The Rules of the Red Rubber Ball. Brilliant book for anybody that's curious about play. But design thinking basically says, okay, I want to make a car. Cool. What's it look like? And they start at the end. Like, this is what I kind of imagine it. And they work the other way. You know, I'm more of a linear thinker. I have to train myself to become one who thinks in that regard. So what you're on is a real unique thread of creativity. It's not just, this is just my ideas. Like there's something for you, I think, as a friend of like, leaning into the thoughts. There's a great documentary literally called Design Thinking. And that's what you're describing right now. And that's what most like Tinker Hatfields, like special designers, majority of their minds, because that's what they're trained, where they get trained. And some of us haven't been trained in that world. You're clearly one of them. You come from the school of Quincy Avery, right? So there's something there that maybe was embedded for you as a child of a game plan of what do we want to play to do, score a touchdown. Okay, how do we work backwards from that? So I would urge you to keep exploring that if you haven't yet.
I've never even thought about it really. But yeah, I'm gonna dive into that.
Yeah, cool, man. All right, so I want to dive into how do you think this generation, because it gets a lot of slack, right? I call it the iPhone generations, titled officially Generation Z. There is a lot of coaches that I've talked to in college football is when a game ends, the first thing a student does when they go into the locker room is not go to the middle like we did when we were playing and wait for the coach's message. They go right to their locker room or their locker and do one of these, which is a selfie, or they check their phone. It's in certain communities, especially the high-profile ones, their brands are real, and I believe that athletes are brands too. I helped on that exact book with Jeremy Darlow, but I do think that what gets lost in me being a brand is me being a human being, and I think it's a massive miss. And when I talk to locker rooms in the Pac-12, it's exactly what I hammer home. I'm curious for you, like, how do you want to help this generation the most? I'm talking quarterbacks that are getting scholarships, playing major college football, having success early, being the dude on their campus. But we both know that it's about 4 guys a year. They're going to go to the NFL and maybe play. I mean, look at Jameis and Marcus Mariota, 1 and 2 draft a couple of years ago, both let go or traded from their respective teams, or at least presumptuously in that regard.
My only hope is just to like provide them with the information that they can do things outside of football, and I try and connect them with other guys doing other things rather than just football. So most of the times at my camps, the people who are going to come talk to them are people not of the world of football. Like, how do we take it from just being the quarterback at my school to being connected with the alumni so that when I get done playing, I might be able to get a job at like Nike, like a Tanner Mangum. Or if I want to start there's so many young, really, really talented quarterbacks who are the face of a school at one point who do things outside of football and they become really successful at those things. And I think that that's who you guys need to learn more from. And I want you guys to compete ferociously to be the best quarterback there is, but also understand that there's a lot of other things out there for you to do because this game's finite. Like, we're going to stop playing whether you play for 10 years or 20 years or 2 years. Like, we're going to be done, and then I have to do something else because you'll be bored out of your mind if you don't.
Yeah, that's great. I remember I was telling the story. I was saying earlier, I've been talking to a teammate a week from Pitt, and I always end it with like, hey, tell me a great memory or something that changed your life now that you didn't realize would change your life then. And mine was our 5th-year senior quarterback when I was a freshman. He said, hey, Yogi, I said, well, give me some advice. He said, get 3 business cards a day every day after practice. And I did that for 4 years when I was at Pitt. Like, you go meet the business guy, the alum, you start building your network. Now it's way easier because you could DM them, right? You have this world. So for you to bring those people to those kids, I think is masterful, because you're right. Like, there is an opportunity to advance yourself in another lane. I call it football adjacent, in another lane at 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 22. Deshaun Watson now, and maybe he's a bad example because he might be a Hall of Famer, but Josh Dobbs now, and Josh Dobbs in 10 years, his network can be dramatically increased now compared to 10 years from now if he's no longer playing in the NFL. So kudos on that. I want to finish up on 2 things with you. One is travel. You know me, I live in Tulane, sports and travel. Love to travel. You and Deshaun have taken a lot of really rad trips. ESPN did a great profile on you guys, but they also didn't do the trip justice because you were gone. I felt like for months, I don't even know. But what was it like for you to travel with someone in Deshaun who has seen a lot, but also hasn't seen a lot? And for you, who's seen a lot, lived in your car, you've seen dark side of life, you've seen some beautiful moments, but haven't seen a lot because the world's so big. And what'd you take from that? And if you could describe it for the listeners.
It was so the trip was we went on like 2 separate trips. It's crazy. We had like 4 trips planned this year. We're not gonna be able to go, but the 2 trips we went on like a big like London to uh, France. Then we went to Italy. Then we went to Africa. We went to the pyramids. Then after that, we went to China. Like we did all those things in over 6 weeks, and it was cool because we got to see so much in terms of like the different cultures, like just learning about how different people were on just a 4-hour flight. Like one flight to the next flight, your world absolutely changed, and it was unique to both him and I. I mean, it was cool because when we go on these trips, it's not like, oh, that's Deshaun Watson. It's just 2 guys who have a camera behind them, and that we're curious as they are about us, about them, and the things they're doing, how they eat, how you get around, and just seeing like. So we go from the pyramids, which was like they said it was closed, but it wasn't really closed, and we're like trying to barter with people to get through and go see everything. And then we get done, we go to China, and it's like the streets are silent, don't talk, like straight line. It was just the uniqueness of everything that we did was so cool. Seeing how just people communicate, and then like the family aspect of a lot of the different cultures that we saw, like it was more of a togetherness. Like it was a community of people who were like working together to try and make sure that everybody was good. It was not a lot of selfishness. It didn't seem like a lot of selfishness to us, the tourists, as we kind of just rolled through there and got to enjoy the things that they were doing.
I've always felt on travel that you go to see something, like you go to see Machu Picchu, you go to see the Great Wall, you go to see the pyramids as your reference, you go to see the Venice canals, but you ultimately see yourself in a different light. Curious if that happened to you, and if so, how?
I think the best opportunity for that for me was the second stop of our trip. We were doing the canals. We were doing all we helicopter on top of
Of course.
a ski. It was the craziest thing in my life. But I'm like, the thing that I realized was how lucky and fortunate I was, because there's so many people who live tremendous lives and they care about people and they're good people, and they'll never get to do anything as cool as this last 3 weeks that I've been on, right? And I knew I had so much more. And it was just like, how grateful should I be to be able to do all these different things and how far a game has taken me, right? Because I don't meet Deshaun if I'm not in football. Not only do I not meet him, I don't meet a ton of other people. I'm not taking this trip. I'm not seeing these different like there's so many things I've been fortunate to do just because of a game, and how blessed and how thankful I am for each and every opportunity. And don't take a second for granted. That's really the thing I learned. Like, don't take this for granted, because I might not be able to do this again. Like we see right now, we can't even go outside for real. So be thankful.
That's well. That's well said. Okay, so there's a big football audience that listens to this podcast. You trained Jalen Hurts for the Combine, Pro Day. He's a guy I remember when he came to the Elite 11 over the summer. He's come the last 2 summers as a counselor. The last summer, at least for me, I was like, whoa, this dude can deal. Like, look out. He's a passer.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously has an incredible season in Oklahoma. What have you noticed, and what do you think about him? Where might you project him? And I don't want to be like draft guru of like pick a team, but when you look at him, do you see like, yeah, he could start in the NFL? And where's his development been over the course of, I guess it's been almost 90 days probably now.
On the football side of things, in terms of a 90-day development, he had the biggest improvements of anybody I've ever seen over such a short period of time. Like it was not really even close. Like he was throwing well. Like last year when we did the Elite 11, the finals, like the rail shot, right? When you think about it, it was like, a couple guys that did a little bit better.
Yeah.
He comes here and he just works. It was like, let me be telling exactly what I want to do every single day. And not only was he the most improved, he challenged me more than anybody else I've ever coached in terms of my attention to detail, my knowledge of exactly what we're going to be doing before we stepped on the field. And not just before we get on the field. He wanted to know the night before so that he could create a plan in his head about how he's going to go attack it. That was different for me. I've never had anybody like that. Like, I'm always ready for the day, but I had to be ready a week in advance for anything that he could ask, because he was just that kind of guy. I think that people were talking about him as a 4th, 5th rounder before his kind of evolution as a passer, I think, happened during this draft preparation period. I think he goes second, third round now, and he's going to have a real opportunity to start somewhere. I could see someone like the Cowboys taking him after franchising Dak Prescott to see if he does have the ability to become a starter, or the Vikings, just because they got a guy there. But I think that they think that there might be an ability for them to improve and include somebody who can do some more things in the run game. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly what he does.
Yeah, no, he's an awesome kid. I'm so excited for him. I can remember him coming out and being like swole up at 17 at the Elite 11 in LA, and then his career just he's had a sense of we've talked about this offline of a maturity that's unique. But with that being said, I want you to go back in time for me now as we end this here. When you were sleeping on the streets, and as you referenced, you were homeless, and you'd close your eyes, I'd imagine you were thinking of a better world. What did you think? And is it where you are now? Are you blown away with where you are now? Or are you just getting warmed up based on what you did when you were literally sleeping on a sidewalk?
Yeah, so when I was at that point, it was like, I just hope that I can make enough money, like paying rent, training quarterbacks. Like, it's never really about like the money or anything like that. If someone would tell me I'd be right here, right now in 2020, I'd be like, you're out of your mind. Like, there's no way that I'm going to be doing that. So I've exceeded like the expectations, but as I'm in it, I just know that there's so much more that I'm going to be able to do. I got some really cool ideas, and I'm going to just like keep putting them to work. And I'm going to, it's not even so much the ideas, it's the execution. I'm going to execute on every single thing that I really want to execute on. And I'm going to be, to me, I'm in a unique place because I feel like I am the leader of this football quarterback training culture. I think that I'm going to shock the world and be like, wow, I did not know that you could do this training quarterbacks.
Wow. Wow, beautiful, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's chaotic. Tell your little one in the background, hello. I can't wait to see her. Yeah, no, I got you for sure, man.
I see. I had to do a couple looks.
Oh yeah. No, it is. It's like your blind side, like not protected with a kid. You are not protected. You can get
We're
like
hot off him. We're hot off one.
Totally. I've got many feet to the jaw without expecting it. But I love you, and I really appreciate you. Where could people connect with you more amid this uncertain time? And then once we get back on our feet, where can they get and potentially train with you?
All you got to do is just put in Quincy_Avery on Twitter, Instagram, just Quincy Avery. And something cool I'll be doing is every Wednesday night at 9 Eastern Standard Time, I'm just doing a free football conference. I'm going to try and get some like NFL guys and quarterbacks on there. We're just going to talk ball and get a little film up so we can try and help people out in these chaotic times.
I love that. All right. We appreciate it. All the links will be in the show notes. Thanks for watching on YouTube and or listening to it wherever you get your podcast content. Quincy, I love you. I appreciate it, man.
Love you too. Thanks, bro.
You got it, man. All right. I'm Yogi Roth. Check out everything you need, yogiroth.com. Make sure you subscribe to the How Great Is Ball newsletter for podcast content, articles, football insight, etc. Much love. Peace.